Om Shanti, can you hear me all? Sister, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us again. Those who are watching us on YouTube and हमारे साथ जो जुड़े हुए हैं, प्लीज थैंक यू सो मच. एंड संडे का सेशन हमारा फिर से हमारे साथ में आई हुई हैं सुरती सिस्टर. थैंक यू सो मच सिस्टर फॉर ज्वाइनिंग अस. शी इज ज्वाइनिंग डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम पुणे. आप हमारे साथ में आए थे लास्ट टू लास्ट वीकेंड में, संडे में, एंड वी वर टॉकिंग अबाउट कंपैशन, सेल्फ कंपैशन, आत्म करुणा. मतलब अपने ऊपर करुणा कैसे दिखानी है, करुणा का मतलब क्या है. एंड वी ऑल्सो डिस्कस कि सेल्फ लव और करुणा के बीच में डिफरेंसेस क्या हैं. एंड हमने डिफरेंट सिनेरियोज लिए थे, उसमें डिफरेंट एग्जांपल्स लिए थे. एंड आज हम थोड़ा सा और डेप्थ में जाएंगे एंड इसको प्रैक्टिस कैसे करें, थोड़ा सा इसके बारे में समझना चाहेंगे हम. सो सिस्टर, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग विद अस. एंड हमारे सारे व्यूअर्स को फिर से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. आप ऐसे हमारे साथ में जुड़े रहे. 30 minutes of your life, 30 minutes of your time, and our 30 minutes, let's work together and make our life better. So today sister, we have to learn कि हमारा सेल्फ कंपैशन में थोड़ा सा अंडरस्टैंडिंग बेसिक्स का तो हो गया था. थोड़ा सा और डेप्थ में जाएंगे इसको कि इसके डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सिनेरियोज कैसे हो सकते हैं डिफरेंट एग्जांपल्स के हिसाब से. चाहे वो हमारी पर्सनल लाइफ हो, चाहे हमारी रिलेशनशिप्स के बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, चाहे हमारे बॉस के साथ में हो, चाहे हमारे सबॉर्डिनेट्स के साथ में हो, चाहे बिजनेस में हो. हमारा उतार चढ़ाव होता रहता है हर में. तो उसमें सेल्फ कंपैशन को हम कैसे प्रैक्टिस करें. वी वुड लाइक टू टेक मे बी वन टॉपिक ईच. डिफरेंट सिनेरियोज, रिलेशनशिप्स हो, फाइनेंसेस हो, हेल्थ हो, एंड लेट्स गो अहेड विद दैट सिस्टर. प्लीज टेक अस अहेड सिस्टर.
Yeah. I'm glad आपने application के बारे में this is what we're talking about today because um, understanding a concept and उसको apply करने में काफी फर्क होता है. And when it comes to self-compassion, I'm 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 getting reminded of that analogy, right? कि जब हम किसी एग्जाम की प्रिपरेशन करते हैं, we don't do it before, I mean we don't do it during the time of the exam, right? हम उसकी चैलेंज की प्रिपरेशन बहुत पहले से करते हैं.
एग्जैक्टली.
एग्जाम की प्रिपरेशन बहुत पहले से करते हैं. And that's because when we are in a challenging situation, we hope कि जो भी हमने प्रैक्टिस किया है, सीखा है, वो naturally उस टाइम पर इमर्ज होकर आएगा. Right? So when we're talking about being self-compassionate and the attitude of self-compassion, it's not so much of a practice जो मैं उस टाइम पर कर रही हूँ, but it's more of an attitude that shows up at that point.
Okay.
When we talk about practicing self-compassion,
जी.
it's a daily practice, right? And it has some very specific practices. Maybe we can look at one today. And then as we practice it, फिर हम हमारी वो attitude में, it becomes a part of our attitude. So it's almost like I am orienting my awareness to choose the most compassionate response for myself in any given instance. Sometimes the compassionate response can be that I have to soothe myself and take care of my emotions.
Okay.
Sometimes the compassionate response can be that I am doing something which is very uncomfortable or going out of my comfort zone, which will, in the long term, help me to better myself. For example, let's say अगर आपके बॉडी में कहीं पेन है, right? And you notice that ये पेन डेवलप हो रहा है, let's say किसी जॉइंट में पेन डेवलप हो रहा है,
Okay.
and you're told that आपको इसका न्यूट्रिशन का जो ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, and you might also have to support that joint, but you will also need to exercise it at some point, है ना?
Right.
तो compassion will also look like being very kind to that joint and to support it as much as possible.
Okay.
But it will also look like thinking about, okay, how can I strengthen it now? तो मैं इसको शायद मुझे थोड़े टाइम के लिए अनकंफर्टेबल एक्सरसाइजेस करनी पड़ेंगी ताकि मैं उसको मजबूत बना सकूं. So being compassionate can look sometimes like I am soothing myself and taking care of myself in a very kind and gentle manner. And sometimes it can look like motivating and encouraging myself to take up a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So are we trying to come to the point that, we generally hear from successful people that sacrifice leads to success. The first step to success is sacrifice. Some form of sacrifice has to be done. And so self-compassion over here in terms of our physical health, which we are talking about, would mean that I am sacrificing certain things which can aggravate the situation of that knee, which we are talking about. And so as to soothe myself, I'm being compassionate to myself so as to bring it back to the original state where it was earlier. So it's not a sacrifice, but it's a self-compassion, are you trying to say?
Yeah, we can, that's also a very interesting perspective to look at it from. जब हम sacrifice की बात करते हैं, being a martyr, being someone who's making a sacrifice, it has a very, a connotation where we think that sacrifice बहुत ही difficult होता है, बहुत ही painful होता है. Uh, and here what we're trying to do is it's recognizing that something is unwholesome for me, something is unhelpful as a pattern,
Okay.
और अब ये pattern क्योंकि helpful नहीं है, wholesome नहीं है, healthy नहीं है, so I need to now move away from this pattern, right? So मान लीजिए, for example, let's go back to a health issue. ठीक है, हम क्योंकि उसको समझना थोड़ा easy हो जाता है उस perspective से.
Right.
So let's say, as a health, something for your health, आपको कहा गया है कि आपको sugar आप नहीं ले सकते, right? So I have a habit of consuming sugar. I have a habit of eating sugar most of the time, and it's an unwholesome habit.
Okay.
It's a habit that is unhelpful to me right now. So as a way of being compassionate to myself, I will first need to recognize that something within me is suffering. Because compassion, like I think we had discussed the last time, is a response to my suffering. So when I see myself suffering, जब तक मैं वो recognize नहीं करूँगी, I would not want to be compassionate to myself. It will not emerge from within, right? So when I'm recognizing that, okay, इस habit की वजह से मैं suffer कर रही हूँ.
Right.
ये जो मेरी शायद हैबिट है शुगर खाने की, या फिर चिल्लाकर बात करने की, या टू बी इरिटेबल, या फिर टू थिंक ऑफ द वर्स्ट केस सिनारियोस, राइट? ये सारी हैबिट्स, चाहे मेंटल हो, फिजिकल हो, बिहेवियरल हो, इनकी वजह से मैं सफर कर रही हूँ.
Okay.
And the moment I recognize my suffering and I meet it with love, with loving kindness, very naturally, as a response to my suffering, something in me says, this cannot go on the way it is going. ऐसे नहीं चल सकता अब.
Okay.
And this is causing me a lot of pain.
Okay.
So now I must do something to alleviate my suffering. मुझे कुछ करना पड़ेगा so that my suffering can reduce.
Okay.
और वो जो एक्शन हम लेते हैं, then that is a compassion. It's compassion in action.
Okay.
So it can, like you said, it can mean letting go of something that's not helping me anymore, and recognizing that this pattern ये आगे नहीं चल सकता. It's just causing a lot of pain and and discomfort. जब तक वो recognition नहीं आता है कि कोई चीज uncomfortable हो रही है मेरे लिए या दूसरों के लिए, तब तक वो स्टेप नहीं लेते हैं.
Fine. And sister, in case of relationships, we try to make other people happier. We try to, fulfill their wishes, and we try hard to adjust with everybody. एंड समटाइम्स हम इतना भी ट्राई करते हैं कि हम अपनी इच्छाओं को हम छोड़ देते हैं एंड औरों की इच्छाओं को हम पूर्ति करना शुरू कर देते हैं. दैट मीन्स वी ट्राई टू हेल्प अदर पीपल आउट एंड वी कीप देम फर्स्ट and ourselves at the back. Is that also a practice of self-compassion? Can we take it that way, or it is a sacrifice?
You know, I heard this very beautiful definition of compassion from a very renowned psychologist and mindfulness teacher named Jack Confield. और उन्होंने एक बहुत beautiful definition दी है, which is that the circle of compassion is incomplete without me.
Okay.
So the circle of compassion that I'm trying to create with people around me, अगर मैं उसका हिस्सा नहीं हूँ, if I'm not a part of it, then it's not a complete circle.
Okay.
Then it becomes actually very difficult to be compassionate to others if I am constantly feeling exhausted and depleted within. So हम जैसे राजयोग में भी सीखते हैं, right? That we connect with the divine, we create that constant connection so that I am constantly replenished.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance. And then I give, right?
Mm.
I connect with the divine and I receive that love. I fill myself from that love, and then automatically it emanates. And to come back to आपने जो point कहा, right, which is हम दूसरों को खुश करने की कोशिश करते हैं. Right? The question that one can sit with is this place within me that wants to see others happy. Is this coming from a wholesome space where I feel whole, complete, and happy within me, and I would like to share that joy with others? Or is it coming from a space of, I want you to be happy because only if you are happy and you are fine and you are in a good mood, then I can be okay. Or agar, yeah.
And the third part can also be there. Third part can be, I'm trying to make you happy so that tomorrow you make me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? So I am doing this for you, then it becomes like a barter system.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
कुछ तो वापस आएगा.
And even to have that desire and to have that hope is not it's not wrong, right? Because if I'm being kind to you, I'm hoping that you would also be kind.
Give
And
back.
it's not, yeah, it's not wrong to have that hope, but to put a condition that unless and until I don't receive that behavior that I'm hoping from you, I'm going to postpone my happiness, or I'm not going to be kind to myself unless you recognize my worth, unless you see that I am good enough. मैं अपनी worth को पीछे छोड़ती जाऊंगी, या मैं ये फील करूंगी कि I don't deserve my own kindness, my own love, because आप agree नहीं कर रहे, right? And then that becomes very unhealthy, because I have to constantly ensure that you are doing okay. And until then, I can't be fine. So my being okay depends on you being okay with me. And that's a very, very critical condition to keep, right? So
it's a very thin line.
Yeah.
You can cross either side.
And it's a very sensitive space.
Very, very.
So really then analyzing that, do I feel full, complete, whole within me? And am I able to access my wholeness? Am I able to access my qualities? And then as a result, it's directly emanating? Or is there another feeling underneath जो मैं देख नहीं पा रही
Okay. So we have touched the point of meditation and Rajyoga. We
हूँ.
just spoke about it, like taking that balance, taking that energy from the Supreme. Now, in most of the cases, people who are not aware about this meditation, not aware about the self and others, we generally feel that, life is about give and take. We are supposed to do for others, only then can we say that we are good people.
Hmm.
Only then there's that kind of a cliche also going on that only when other people tell us that you're good enough, then we feel that yes, we're good enough. So till that time, that response doesn't come back,
Hmm.
I have to keep on doing it. And sometimes for many people in relationships, generally we have seen husband wife saas bahu relationship you have done so much that 40 years, 50 years, 25 years have gone past and there's nothing which is coming from that side. So we just throw it in the garbage. We just say, it's my karma, and they must have done so much for me, so that's why I'm returning it back in this life. And that still is not a self-compassionate statement. That still is like we are feeling stuck somewhere. How to come out of this rut and how to be out of this situation where we feel that we have to keep on doing and we're blaming even karma for that, blaming our destiny. Sometimes we go to the Pandit and we show kab tak chalega ye. So so and we try so many different things. Some people even
Yeah.
go to the extent of jadoo टोना also. मेरी सास को ठीक कर दो या मेरे वाइफ को ठीक कर दो, कुछ पुड़िया डाल दो, कुछ दे दो उनको. So people go to that extent. I'm just trying to touch every base over here. Different people with different thought patterns and different behaviors and different belief systems, how they react to such situations. So how do we practice self-compassion if for a person who's in this kind of state right now? How does that person practice self-compassion?
In my understanding, self compassion here might look like maybe setting boundaries not just with the person from where we are not receiving any nourishment, or where we are just receiving a lot of suffering. So that needs to be, of course, a boundary at a relational level, right? Which is very clear, and it's a process of setting that boundary, where I recognize and say that, hey, I've been doing a lot for quite some time, and now I've come to a point where I feel depleted, and and it's that recognition that my validation doesn't come from there, or that I am not bound by by a set of rules that I have to keep giving, right? So that is more at a relational level. But there also needs to be a boundary with that I need to have, I the self needs to have with these patterns.
Okay.
Because it's a pattern, right? It's a pattern to want to keep doing for others so that someday, some point, I can get something from you. Or I'll keep doing for you so that one day you turn around and say, thank you, or I love you, or I'm proud of you, or whatever, right? And return back that kindness. So this it's a pattern, and it's an unhealthy pattern. Yeah.
Yeah, I see another pattern in this. When we are staying in a family and we're trying to do for somebody, it doesn't matter whether the husband is doing for the wife or vice versa. We sometimes feel that we have to be a good husband, good wife. And there's some expectation from the self too, in which we sometimes cross those boundaries. We don't even keep boundaries for ourselves, not just with others. I'm talking about boundaries with self that, okay, this is my limit. And till this, I can go ahead. After that, I know myself very well. I may not be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I need to have boundaries with myself. But when I say boundaries within me, what that is, at least from where I see it, is I'm setting a boundary from a pattern that developed within me, a
Right.
belief that developed within me. And it's almost like a part of me really believes it's true.
Mm.
And because it believes it's true, it's very hard for it to change that.
Okay.
So when I say I, the self, when I am conscious of who I am, my ability to discern that this is an old pattern that's coming up, it's an unhelpful pattern
Okay.
because it's causing me pain. Had it been a healthy, wholesome pattern, I would not have been suffering right now. So there is something going, lopsided in this whole relation, right?
Okay.
And so सबसे पहले मैं I need to be able to discern कि मैं ये जो pattern है मेरा, it's not something that belongs to the self. It's something that I picked up at some point in my life
Maybe
or
from the
even
movies,
another life.
serials.
Yeah.
Maybe from the movies and the serials and
Yeah,
right,
or I saw people around me doing that.
around me doing it. My own family
Because
members.
yeah, because जब हम
Mm.
बहुत छोटे होते हैं, right? We learn, it's implicit learning. हमें बिना बताए हम मैनरिज्म्स भी पिकअप कर लेते हैं अपने अपने आसपास के लोगों के, right? And so it's a very subtle form of learning that takes place. So when I see someone constantly sacrificing, and then if it's a parent figure, if it's a teacher figure, if it's a peer, or if someone that I idolize, then I'm going to pick it up. A part of me is going to pick it up as, hey, this is the right thing to do. You must keep giving and not expect even the basic respect and love in return, right? And so there is a pattern of self-sacrifice that develops, and one takes a lot of pride in that. So
Yeah, yeah.
distancing, yeah,
We tell
from
our
that,
friends, we tell our other relatives also about that I have done so much for them. They should be thankful to me.
yeah,
Yeah, we
I
use
ab-
those dialogues.
absolutely,
Mm.
because then a part of, because we want to justify, right? We
Or
want
maybe
to
take
justify.
validation.
Sorry.
Maybe take validation from others
Yeah,
when it's not
yeah.
coming from the near dear ones.
Exactly. Take validation because अब मेरा वो पैटर्न बन गया है और मुझे उससे खुद को निकालने में तकलीफ हो रही है या मुझे पता भी नहीं है कि ये मेरा पैटर्न है. So then I'm hoping कि मुझे कोई आके कहेगा कि validate करेगा. Someone along will come along and validate this behavior, right? And so being really compassionate to ourselves is understanding that I've had this pattern for a very long time. A part of me holds it as true, holds this belief very strongly. And yet, the moment I recognize and the moment I become aware, now it's my responsibility, the responsibility of the self to change that pattern. And from that moment on, then I am accountable for it. So if I keep harboring it, right, like you harbor a fugitive, you
Yeah.
harbor someone who's a criminal, or someone who's done wrong, you are also unstable. So if I'm recognizing that something is bringing so much pain for me and I'm not taking any action to change that, then I become accountable. So to be accountable to ourselves is also a part of being self-compassionate and recognizing that this has been there for a very long time, but it's not helpful anymore. So I'm going to take conscious steps, and those can be very actionable behavioral steps, right? That whether it is seeking professional help, whether it is learning meditation, whether it's learning healthy habits, but I'm going to, in some way, choose to do something so that I can get out of this pattern.
So are we trying to say that when we are in relationship and we've been doing a lot for the relationship, whichever relationship it is, and we feel tired at times, we feel stuck at times. So is it possible that we can find a way to energize ourselves to bring self-compassion? That means instead of looking for that validation from others, I validate myself. Well done. Good. You're taking care of the house so well. You're taking care of the kids so well. And you're taking care of the job so well. And even though other people are not validating me, but I'm doing my role quite well. And I don't need any validation from others. I have got compassion for myself. Can we go to that level also in self-compassion? Because
Yeah,
we're not talking about others' compassion or others' validation. We're talking about
yeah,
self-compassion over here.
yeah,
And
yeah,
still keep on doing those things without complaining, without setting too many boundaries, or saying from now today onwards I'm not going to do anything for you. So that also might come out of not having enough power to take care of things, or not having enough energy, which we are saying that we can get it through meditation from the Supreme Creator. Why can't I just fill myself and still keep on doing those things, and not blame karma, not blame people, not complain about things, be happy in it, instead of moving away from that relationship, or totally discarding it? Is it still possible to still keep the whole thing together? I'm talking about obviously in those relationships when there's no abuse, physical abuse.
yeah.
That's the extreme case. So where no physical abuse is there and we still want to go ahead with that relationship.
Yeah, to just from the perspective, if there's any kind of abuse that's involved,
Yeah.
then and we're not taking those cases into consideration
Yeah.
at all right now,
Right.
because it's a very general
Right.
conversation. So the moment there is emotional, mental, psychological, physical abuse involved, it's a completely different scenario
Different.
altogether,
Right.
and there has to be professional intervention.
Right.
But in the other cases where there isn't abuse involved, but you're feeling like you're being depleted, you're feeling like you've started to get exhausted, right? It's actually a good idea to take a pause at that point,
Okay.
and to really reflect on what is it within me that feels exhausted, and am I still trying to carry on while I feel so exhausted. And a principle that I've started to now live by is my ability to give is directly dependent on my ability to receive.
Okay.
So the amount that I can receive, whether I'd say I'm receiving from the divine, or I'm receiving love from those around me, or support from those around me, as much as I have the capacity to receive, and I build on that capacity, because वो सब में initially हम सबकी capacity to receive is very different. In
Yeah,
fact,
it's very different.
हमें ये सिखाया जाता है that you shouldn't take, you should just keep giving, right?
Yeah.
But where am I going to give it from if I don't have
Mm.
it within me? So we're saying that whether you want to connect from the divine, and that's a very beautiful way to actually replenish myself and nurture myself,
Right.
is I first allow myself to be deeply loved, unconditionally loved, in that divine connection, in that loving presence of God, and I receive that, and I open my heart to receiving it, and I sense that love within me. I allow myself to feel it within me. And when I start to feel it within me, then as a very automatic response, I would want to share it with others.
Wonderful. So
So that's how
I
we
understand that,
can
sister.
measure that.
We can reframe setting boundaries as something else, which what I've realized right now through our chit chat right now. That it's not about actually setting boundaries and saying, no, I won't do it anymore. That's not the boundary. The boundary is all about, I want time for myself to replenish or to recharge myself. I've been using the mobile phone for a very long time. I need to just plug it in. So I need to plug myself in. I'm not going away from you. I'm not refusing that relationship, that I won't do this work anymore. That's not the boundary which we're talking about. We're talking about, I need to energize myself. I need to meditate, love myself, be compassionate with myself. I need to self-talk myself out of the negativity which is going on. Or I need to reprogram my mind. We can use so many different terms. And for that, I'm setting a boundary that from this time to this time, I want space for myself.
Yeah, and that can be, of course, one way to, of course, understand this. And sometimes in relationships we need actual concrete behavioral boundaries, which means that you've requested something and I may not want to go ahead with that.
Okay.
Not right now, not after an hour I've meditated,
Hmm.
not a year from now. This is just something that I don't feel comfortable with. For
Okay.
example, if let's say there's a relationship where one person tends to talk in a derogatory manner or in a condescending manner with the other, right? And the other doesn't like it. I'm not telling myself in that moment that, or the person who's receiving it is not telling themselves in that moment that, oh, I just need to meditate and then I will be okay with this tone of voice. Because
Mm.
when we are learning to be compassionate with ourselves, we are also learning the capacity or building the capacity and learning the tools to show up for ourselves. So
Okay.
as it's almost like, and that's why I give the example of being like a mother, right, to ourselves and to our mind and
Mm.
to our inner self. Is not only am I learning to be nurturing to myself, but I'm also going to be like a protective mother, where I very assertively and clearly, but in a respectful way, assert my boundaries and say, I don't like this.
Okay.
I will not like this even after 1 hour of meditation.
Mm.
So there are some boundaries which need to be very concrete and stable and consistent, because it's a behavioral boundary. And to create that balance between the two. So when I feel okay within myself and when I am taking care of myself, then I can set a boundary in a healthy manner. And I
Okay.
can be very clear कि मुझे कैसे यहाँ boundary set करना है.
And मुझे चाहिए क्या exactly in life में? What do I want to feel throughout the day when I'm in that relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, I would just like to leave the audience with an acronym called RAIN, right? RAIN. RAIN stands for recognizing what's really going on within me.
Okay.
Initially as a practice, and then RAIN can, become a part of who you are. Is I recognize what's going on within me. I I fully give myself that space to look at my thoughts, feelings, sensations. Then I allow what's emerging to come up. And that's A stands for allowing.
Okay.
Then, from that space of allowance and from that space of acknowledging, then I inquire. So I stands for inquiry. That this place within me that's hurting right now, that's feeling tired right now, that's feeling depleted right now, what does this place need at the moment?
Mm.
And allowing that answer to emerge in a very loving way, welcoming that answer. And then N stands for nurturing. So, nurturing myself, inviting the presence of the divine to nurture that need. It could be the need to feel respected, the need to feel loved, the need to feel acknowledged that yes, you are doing so much, right? And sometimes we do a lot, and we would just like a little bit of acknowledgement, if not recognition.
Sure.
And then to allow that nurturing to take place. So that is RAIN.
Wonderful.
Recognize, allow, inquire, and nurture.
Nurture. Wonderful. So we'll remember all the words which we have spoken today, and especially this RAIN and acronym. And we would like to go ahead with another episode in which we're going to explore certain other areas of our life, certain challenging areas of our life. Could be financial areas, could be health related issues which are happening in our life also. And how do we go ahead with some form of meditation, a very light form of meditation, which can be done by someone who has not yet taken Brahma Kumari's knowledge and who believes in the supreme power, the higher power, but needs to connect with the self, needs to be alone with the self. And I think we can cover it in the next episode, sister.
Absolutely. Thank you
So
so much for having me.
thank you so much, sister. And to our listeners, be with us and you'll receive that message of the next episode, episode number 3, in which we're going to continue and we're going to talk about and touch the meditation part also. And I believe some of you are also listening to our early morning 4 o'clock meditations, which we are doing on a regular basis. Different speakers are coming, different voices you're going to hear with different experiences. Some souls are with 23 years of experience of meditation, 30 years, 40 years of experience of meditation. Do listen to them, do enjoy them. And even if, like I said last time, if 4 o'clock is not yet possible for you, do it in the evenings. It's still there in the Rajyoga Self-Healing Meditation channel. Just a click away. Click on it, listen to it, and go ahead with meditation. Om Shanti, and thank you, sister. Thank you for being with us. See you soon in the next episode. Om Shanti. Signing off now.